Well, good morning, Fairfield Baptist. This morning we're going to take some time to focus and appreciate our mothers. This week I listened to the words of some kindergartners and how they responded to some questions about their moms. The first question was, why did God make mothers? Well, here's some of the answers. She's the only one who knows where the Scotch tape is. So true. Mostly to keep the house clean and make sure we eat. Thirdly, to help us out when we were getting born. Completely important there. You moms had a lot to do with us being born. How did God make mothers was another question to these kindergartners. And one said he used dirt just like the rest of us. Another one said magic plus superpowers and a lot of stirring. That's real important. God made moms just like us, except he made them with little bigger parts. So those are from those kindergartens. Another one was, what ingredients are mothers made of? One kindergartner said, God made mothers out of clouds and angel hair and everything nice in the world with a little dab of mean. Some of you understand that, right? Right, kiddos? Another one said they got their start from men's bones, then mostly used some string, I think. And then another kindergarten question said, why did God give you mothers and not some other mom? Why did God give you your mother and not some other mom? And one kindergartner said, because we're related. And another said, God knew my mom likes me more than other moms seem to like me. And some of you probably understand that. I'm sure I answer many of you. Well, you can get really a sense from even these kindergartners that in their own way, they really appreciate their moms. There's nobody quite like mom. I think I've said before that when those NFL football games are going on and some player does something great and the camera spans to them on the sideline, they look up and they say, hi, Mom. And it's like something connects in them that very moment that they're experiencing is dependent upon this person they know and call Mom. Well, let's focus today just a moment on how much our moms taught us. And I would say this is really the mom's university at home. Like she taught us about logic. She said, if someone jumps off a bridge, does that mean you need to jump off the bridge also? She taught us humor. When that lawnmower cuts off your toes, don't you come running to me. She taught us about genetics. You're just like your father. She taught us about foresight. You better wear clean underwear in case you're in an accident. Oh, very important. She taught us about prayer. You better pray to God that comes out of that carpet. She taught us about anticipation. Just wait until your father gets home. She taught us about the circle of life. I brought you into this world, and I can take you out of it. She taught us about adulthood. You better eat your vegetables, or you'll never grow up. So many important things that Mom taught us, right? Well, I know that we want to honor and appreciate our moms on this Mother's Day. And so I chose Proverbs 31, and I chose all of Proverbs 31, not just the epilogue of the character of a noble wife or a noble woman, but also verses 1 through 9 as well as verses 10 through 31. And I think this will help clear up some misunderstandings that people sometimes have about this passage of Scripture. When we're reading just verses 10 through 31, there's a couple different reactions I get from some different moms. One is sort of a sense of pressure. Like, how in the world am I going to live up to Proverbs 10 through 31? Because I feel like that's a lot to live up to, or that's a lot of descriptions of wonderful attributes of this woman. But good news is that this description is more likely not one woman, but a comprehensive portrait of the ideal womanhood. It's not a model to imitate in every detail. But your days wouldn't be long enough even to live through the experiences of all the things described here. But instead, it's aspirations to attain to, aspirations to be all that we can be. But there's a second reaction, and that's sort of a different one, a refreshing reality that's different than the media loves to portray Christians as having our women sort of be barefoot and pregnant and at least almost solely committed to be entirely domestic in their commitments only inside the home. But here in this passage, we paints a picture of a woman who is a manufacturer, who is an importer, who is a manager, a realtor, a farmer, a seamstress, an upholsterer, a merchant, all while her kids give her praise for the type of mom that she is in the home. And where the world puts so much value on the beauty, the outward beauty of a woman, this passage doesn't even mention it. Other than to say at the end where charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Well, I think by reading the first 9 verses of chapter 31, the saying of King Lemuel, an oracle taught to him by his mother, then when we read verses 10 through 31, it's very nice in appreciating our moms who love and fear the Lord, and it really shows us the contrast that the text is trying to get to. And so I think that it'll clear some things up. So let's read Proverbs 31, 1 through 31, starting with those first verses 1 through 9. The sayings of King Lemuel, an inspired utterance his mother taught him. Listen, my son. Listen, son of my womb. Listen, my son, the answer to my prayers. Do not spend your strength on women, your vigor on those who ruin kings. It is not for kings, Lemuel, it is not for kings to drink wine, not for rulers to crave beer, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed, and deprive all the oppressed of their rights. Let beer be for those who are perishing, wine for those who are in anguish. Let them drink and forget their poverty and remember their misery no more. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. Well, does everyone here have an idea of the kind of women Lemuel's mom is trying to warn him about or telling him about not wasting his strength on? The kind that ruin kings? Does anybody think there's kind of a connection in the very next verse who connects to the concerns regarding alcohol? I mean, so far we sort of have the same mix in much of the reality television. These women over here, a mixture of alcohol, and we have the reality TV as well as about every beer commercial. And Lemuel's mom is just reminding him of not going this certain direction, but remember you're a statesman. Remember what it is to be a stand-up guy who has to make wise decisions with a clear head for the benefit of those that are relying on him. Back in this time, there wasn't a lot of advanced medicine available for everyone, and certainly not pain medications and things like we have today. So sometimes it came down to beer and wine were to help folks to kind of numb the pain toward the ends of their life. And then, as I said before about this wisdom literature that we're reading in the Bible here, the next section was not a pressure illustration to show something the women could not almost live up to, but was really more a contrast of what King Lemuel's mom would like for Lemuel to bring home to mama. Actually, someone that he was proud of, and not just somebody that looked good. And then it begins this epilogue of the noble woman, starting in verse 10, that we're much more familiar with. And this is what Lemuel's mom would say, this is the kind of woman I'd like you to bring home to mama. I think it's more something to aspire to. It's also something very beautiful in the language here. In the Hebrew language, verses 10 through 31, it's sort of an acrostic. Each new verse begins with the next successive letter of the Hebrew language, for this to be sort of very pretty, very artistic writing and an effective contrast in the type of woman that King Lemuel's mom would like him to bring home to her. This part of the passage names several of the traits that I know that we appreciate about our moms, that our own mothers possess, and so fueled by their love and wisdom that is given by the Lord. So let's read in verse 10. A wife of noble character, who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like the merchant ships bringing her food from afar. For her, she gets up while it is still night. She provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She sets out about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. She sees that her trading is profitable and her lamp does not go out at night. In her hand, she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes coverings for her bed. She's clothed in fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes his seat amongst the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them and supplies the merchants with sashes. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. So there are many outstanding traits here that the women to aspire to, but today I'm going to just draw out 3 of these today, that summary type points that I've been so thankful about for my own mother and also the Kelly, the mother of my children. When we appreciate, what we appreciate about our moms who so love the Lord or are inspired by the wisdom of the Lord. So here in those verses 21, when it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. And then in verse 25, it says she's clothed with strength and dignity, that she can laugh at the days to come. What I've noticed about the way God has made our moms is that they might show some signs of being scared of a scary movie and might snuggle up close to you, or maybe they don't want to go downstairs at night in the middle of the night in a dark 2-story home. But the Lord help the souls of those who mess with a mama's kids. Have you noticed that? I think you know what I mean. Suddenly, when her kids are being picked on, or when she feels like a teacher is being unfair to her child at school, her husband is pondering, how to respond to things here or what their kids can learn from this. But his wife has already ran past him and has taken on whatever threat that is coming against her family or against her kids. It's as if the writer in Proverbs is saying, this mama bear has no fear for her household because she has clothed them properly, as well as clothed them under her eyes of her protection against anything coming at them. And in her strength and dignity, she fearlessly watches over them, and to where she has no fear of the future because of the strength of her character, she can sort of laugh at the days to come. She can say, come on, bring on the future. We have no fear of it because her character is strong, and she overlooks the affairs of her household and her children. So my first point for appreciating our moms, appreciating my mom that I wrote down, is mom's love with fearless abandonment. They love with fearless abandonment. I remember being in high school, back in a basketball game, and we were playing North Eugene High School in their gym, and I remember us being down by a point, but then we scored with under 10 seconds left, and we went ahead. And after that, I was guarding the guy with the ball to try and come down and score the last basket. And so I had my hands up along this guy, trying not to foul him as he took the last second shot and missed. And we won the game, and our crowd flooded the floor immediately. And what I remember next, suddenly there was a woman with red hair that was right upon me from the North Eugene side, and she had her high heel over her head, over my head, looking like she was going to hit me with it, screaming, you fouled him, admit that you fouled him. Now what took me by surprise next was suddenly my mom was also in the center of the basketball floor between this woman and me, telling this woman she better back off now. Next, I remember that my coach was corralling me and pulling me and saying, Alan, let's get to the locker room. This lady is crazy. And I sort of wanted to look back and see what my mom was going to do with this woman. I mean, here, what was my mom, pastor's wife, and nurse going to do to this lady that was threatening her son? Kind of wanted to see that as I was being pulled away. Now, I guess it ended peacefully and this lady backed off. But what was a little bit amusing to me was I saw the same fear in this lady's eyes that many of us kids remembered when my mom wrote a note on the counter that there was going to be a family meeting that evening in our home. And we were wondering, what's going on? What are we going to face tonight from mom? Now, I wasn't the only kid that mom was concerned about, or that I witnessed this fearless love without abandonment and fear-causing love in the eyes of others for her kids. I was also a bat boy for Willamette High School's varsity baseball team, and I was the bat boy for my brother's team, and it was summer club team. It was sponsored by a man named John Chat, where our uniforms reflected this. We were the Willamette High School Chatsmen. That was written on our jerseys, the jerseys of my brother's team. I was just the bat boy. And my brother was playing third base. Normally he was a first baseman, but this night he was playing third base. And crack, off the bat, there was a line shot that went to my brother at third base that was the kind of a shot that went so fast you could barely see the baseball. And it hit my brother right in the wrist before he could even move. Now the ball went down to the ground and my brother still made the play and got the guy out at first base. But after that, he went immediately to the third base dugout, writhing in pain. I began to walk that way, but what I saw next, before my brother Nate could almost even sit down in the dugout, I looked up to see a face I was very familiar with coming through the doorway and stepping down into the dugout of being my mom. Being the bat boy, I immediately looked down, thinking I have nothing to do with this coming invasion into our dugout. And next I heard, "Hey coach, where's your ice?" Now, I heard the coaches say, "I don't think that we have any ice." Well, pretty quickly after that, I heard, "Who's in charge of this outfit?" By that time, the coaches joined me in looking down also. But right about then, John Chat, who was the manager of the team, heard what my mom was saying, and he tried to respond and explain, like, "Oh, we don't have ice right here, but I'll run and get some at the concession stand." And so John Chat began to run to get some ice and brought it back and gave it to my mom, in which he applied to Nathan's wrist. And I'm sure he began to heal from that point on. But a few weeks later, John Chat began attending our church here at Fairfield Baptist. He became a close friend of our family, and because of his generous giving, we actually named the room I'm speaking in right now Chat Hall, where we meet for worship. I remember him saying, though, that he had asked around the team back then who this lady was that so disrupted our baseball game. And finding out that she was a pastor's wife, he said later that he thought he ought to go ahead and try that little Baptist church, probably because it would be pretty well run with a lady like that around. And for years after that, we would laugh about how we first got to know him. I guess I would just say that there's not much embarrassment or fear for a mother that feels the love and protection of her kids are at stake. She loves with reckless abandonment. And moms, we appreciate you for that. We appreciate the way you love your kids so fearlessly. Now, moving on, in verse 11, it said, "Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value, and she brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life." In verse 15, she provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. In verse 20, it says she opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. In verse 27, it says she watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. I did watch my mom being good to my dad all his days. He was a great support to him in managing us kids and our schedules all going different directions, and was a great partner to him in the pastorate. And Mom would provide one cooked meal after another for a family of 6. And back at a time where I remember it was a real special occasion when we would be going out to eat. And I couldn't count the number of food poundings or grocery gatherings that she would gather up and organize for people in the church that had needs of somebody to lift them up and provide food needs for them. And I remember my mom being a school nurse and the amount of times that she was going to the schools to pick head lice out of the hair of young children. How many times that she had her hands extended to needy and to help people in needs in our community. So this made me think or emphasize the point that I want to appreciate moms today with this. Moms serve with an undying sense of caring responsibility. I've heard a saying at some pastor trainings I've been to in regards to the ideas of helping people, and it said this to us: let's be careful not to be so overwhelmed by the needs of everybody that we decide that we can't help anybody. In other words, yes, there's so many needs out there, but God has called us to meet the needs that we can that are right in front of us. The church I grew up in was here at Fairfield Baptist, and it was a one-pastor church with a part-time secretary. That was all the staff that was here. And many people would say about this church here at Fairfield that if you're going to start something new or you see a need and you want to see a ministry done, you better be prepared to start it yourself. And now we have a few more resources and things and some more staff. But it was people like Mom and the moms in the church who kind of lived by this motto: if I don't step up and help, who will? And these kinds of people have been the backbone and helped us and many churches stay open for so many years. I remember way back at a time where Mom was the VBS director. She was the GA's, Girls in Action leader during the week. She was the women's ministry coordinator. She started up a parish nursing crew, and she was the greeting coordinator all in the same year. Some would wonder, how many hats can this lady wear while raising 4 kids and holding down a job of her own? Well, we've since had sort of a goal at this church of having 100 people doing one ministry rather than one person doing 100 ministries. But you got to appreciate and admire the people with that spirit that continually say, hey, what needs to be done? What needs to be done to help build God's kingdom? What needs to be done to meet the needs of the people in this church and the surrounding community, because I want to help? During the coronavirus time that we're in right now, I sure appreciate some ladies, some moms in the church, Lisa and Teresa, helping coordinate all the food and money that's come in to extend a helping hand to those in need in our community. Just this last week, I heard $800 some came in, and all the baskets for the first 3 weeks had been filled and completed, and people were helped because of these ladies and people in the church that have given to this. We sure appreciate people like Mona and Sue and the Child Development Center who are making sure young kids are taken care of while their parents are able to go off and work still during these times, and putting their own health possibly at risk to do that. And I think it's important that people's needs get met, and I think it's important the way we go about meeting those needs in a caringly and responsible manner, that we communicate to people that they're not a burden to us. While we serve, it's a privilege for us to serve. Nobody's a burden to us. We enjoy and love serving because that's how Christ has designed and made us. And moms seem to know that. Moms seem to so often live in that with their family. It's that kind of those ladies in our church who are joining the court-appointed domestic visitations that we've hosted in our church for so many years. And moms and dads will come here and they'll be able to visit their kids that are court-appointed and only under the supervision of other people can see those kids. And sometimes those people will thank those ladies in our church and say, thank you so much for doing this. And the ladies in our church say, hey, it's no problem. We love to see you, be able to see your kids. It's a joy for us also. And this speaks volumes of non-judgmental love and service towards these people. My own mom, who is a registered nurse for a long time, is so troubled by the direction of our society and how it's affected our healthcare system. And she's got too many stories she's heard where people aren't really helped out and they are sent home before they receive help and attention or much time with their own doctors. More emphasis on the financial concerns than the concerns of what is making the patient sick. She's concerned about that because it's moms that set the example of true caring and a responsible care for people. We appreciate so much you moms who set that example of caring so much responsibly, and a good example of the way the Father cares for us. Well, moving on in verse 15, she gets up while it's still night, while it's still dark, and she provides food for her family. In verse 16, it says she considers a field to buy and buys it. And out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard, and she sets up about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for the task. She sees that her trading is profitable, and her lamp does not go out at night. So she gets up early and she goes to bed at night. We call that burning the candle at both ends. And many times our moms do that to get done all the things demanded of her each day. And it says in verse 23, her husband is respected at the city gate, and he takes his seat amongst the elders of the land. You know, one thing I've noticed about moms in my life, both my mom and my wife Kelly, the mother of my children, is they find so much joy and happiness in seeing everybody else in their family doing well. It's like moms see their children and families succeed, and when their family is doing well and their kids are doing well, they feel like they've succeeded also. I remember as a kid, we always played this game at a restaurant, and we called it the restaurant game. And what we would do is we would try and guess what the bill was going to be before it came to our table. And just like The Price is Right, you couldn't go over. And I remember if you got closest to the price, you got like dinner mints that there are lifesavers that were there that that mom and dad would buy for us, whoever got closest. And when I would win, I'd get my prize and want to eat it all, and I had a sense of pride, like, yeah, I got the closest guess. I did this. And then I noticed when my mom was the closest to guessing the right price of the bill, and she would buy a prize for each one of us in the family. And I remember her making this statement, isn't it great when mom wins? Because when mom wins, everybody wins. I noticed this in our home, at my own home now, and when one of our kids has a great success at school or with their concert or in their athletics, Kelly just beams. She's so proud of them, and we go out to ice cream to celebrate a great solo at the choir concert, or Kelly puts her dinner for a kid on a red plate, and we celebrate the great last test score or a great athletic performance at a good game. And she knows some of those tests that the kids did so well on was because Kelly had helped them with their homework or helped give rides to kids to practices or given them rides to their games or paid the fees for them to be able to play all these sports and athletics. The point here I want to make in this third and final point is that moms are willing to make big sacrifices for the good of others, especially starting with their families. Growing up, mom and dad, they worked hard in our family with their jobs, and they were good providers for everything that was needed. But with all these kids, there was 4 of us, there was not just needs, but there was also big dreams. Some from the kids, and also some special experiences mom and dad wanted us to have. Such as Mom really always wanted us to go on a plane trip and fly into Colorado at Christmas time and go skiing at my uncle's place. And he had a condo up in Breckenridge, Colorado at Christmas time, decorated with all the lights. And we got to fly in there and at Christmas time and go skiing together as a family. My brother and I in 8th grade, we were both class officers in student government, and there was a trip to Washington, D.C. that Mom and Dad were able to help us go and experience the national capital. My sister Teresa wanted to be a foreign exchange student in Israel, and she went to Israel. And 4 kids, all of us went to a private Christian college education that was provided for my mom and dad. And with each big dream, many times Dad would say, well, we're going to have to save a few more pesos to have something like that. And I remember my mom not working just her day job as a school nurse, but would take on hours at night as a registered nurse at the hospital. She'd work nights, few days a week, few nights a week. She'd often take this on whenever there was the goal of helping fulfill one of those dreams. People would sometimes notice because my mom would grab a second cup of coffee in between Sunday school and the worship service on a Sunday morning because she'd been up all night the night before. With all these dreams and trips and experiences they wanted us to have, she would say, where there's a will, there's a way. You guys just do it, and we'll try and help you get there. Well, through this, Mom and Dad taught us the miracle of tithing. Because in the midst of helping us achieve and experience these dreams and meet the basic needs of our family, where Dad will tell you it doesn't even make sense on paper how we all went to college. But my parents continue to give to the Lord 10% of their income regardless of what happened. Even when we were raised, Mom and Dad continued to make big sacrifices for us kids and even as adult children. When our first daughter, Allie, was born, Kelly really wanted to move from being a full-time school teacher to going part-time and working just 3 days a week and having 2 days off each week. And it was going to be tight if we were able to do it all. But Mom volunteered to watch our baby a couple days a week while Kelly would go to work. And Kelly will tell you it took away completely the sting of having to leave her children with somebody that was not herself, because it was going to her grandparents that shared the same values and the same love and affections and worshiped the same God that we did. And it was really a life-changing sacrifice my mom made, and it was a difference maker in our life. And we were able to have Kelly go part-time and spend so much time with her kids, while a couple days a week, the kids got an opportunity to grow in different ways with their grandparents, my mom and dad. Moms, we are so thankful. We're so thankful for you and the huge sacrifices that you've made for your children. We so love and appreciate you. The invitation this morning is, I hope we're able to see today that the Proverbs 31 is not something for us to feel pressure to live up to something, but it's only something that we can aspire to and be inspired by the grace of God. It's really about the grace of God that covers us in all of our weaknesses and deficiencies, and helps us actually be the people that God would like us to be, and reaching the potential that we have, all because of His grace and the power of His Spirit that lives within us. We all need God's grace. We all need to receive the Son of God into our lives, receive His affection for us and His power for us. My prayer for you is that you would know Jesus as your Lord and Savior, that you would live under this special grace that allows moms to be the best moms they can be, but also dads and children to be the best people they can be also. And it's only in the power of the Lord Jesus Christ. I finish with that verse in 30. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her, for all her hands have done. and let her works bring her praise in the city gate. Rely on Jesus. Rely on Jesus. Let him change you. Let him cleanse you from the inside and make you new again. God be with you and bless you this Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day!